Rito here. I have a question for you. Are your monsters dying? Are they dying a lot? Like, unreasonably fast? Do you see these pictures of monsters online where they have 6-7 years lifespans and you're envious and you're filled with rage? What do they know that I don't? And the answer to that is lifespan index. Lifespan index is calculated by a very simple formula. It is stress times 2 plus fatigue equals lifespan index, which will be referred to as LI from this point forward. If your lifespan index is 70 or higher at the beginning of any week, you will lose additional weeks of life. You can lose even more than this if you let your lifespan index continue to climb. At 105, for example, you will lose 2 additional weeks. 140, 3. And this can go all the way up to 280, where you'll be losing 8 weeks of life for every week you train. This is also what causes your monster to run away or end up in the hospital if your LI is over 250, so it's very rare that you'll get to that point where you're losing 8 weeks per week. And now that we've talked about how lifespan index, stress, and fatigue all relate to each other and how badly they can impact your monster, let's talk about how you gain stress and fatigue in the first place. The most common way would be with light drills and heavy drills. Light drills will increase your stress by 5 and fatigue by 10, and a heavy drill will increase your stress by 12 and your fatigue by 15, for a total LI impact of 20 and 39 respectively. Other things that will increase stress and fatigue are things like errantry, which gives 7 stress and 18 fatigue per week, and expeditions will increase your fatigue by 70, which by itself will make you lose a week of lifespan. Even things as small as when your monster asks you for an item and you say no, that will increase their stress. This is kind of an aside, but I felt it was important to mention. In the original Monster Rancher 2, there is a bug that has been now fixed in the DX version, which causes errantry to calculate lifespan loss twice. So if you're playing the original version, keep that in mind. So if all these things stress out and fatigue my monster, and that leads them to an early grave, what can I do about it? Well, there's actually a lot you can do about it. The most obvious answer to this is letting your monster rest, but resting isn't as good as you might think it is, and it's very RNG dependent, so not every rest is as good as the other rests, and here, just look at the chart. Looking at this chart, we can see that not only is it RNG dependent, but it also changes depending on your monster's life stage. While this is a lot to take in, you don't need to memorize all of this. All you need to know is that resting is guaranteed to reduce your stress by at least 5 and fatigue by at least 32. Planning for any other outcome is just asking for trouble. While resting may be good for fatigue, it's not very good for stress, reducing it only by about 5. However, battles will reduce your stress massively. While it does vary depending on whether you win, do poorly, or come in last, winning a tournament will reduce your stress by 45 points while increasing your fatigue by 27 to 37 based off your monster's form. If they're skinny, they get less fatigue. If they're plump, they get more fatigue. Pretty straightforward, right? Okay, so you're probably thinking to yourself, you just need to battle more frequently. That's easy. You like battles. Everyone likes battles. Battles are fun. Problem. Every time you do a battle, you're losing at minimum an additional 3 weeks of lifespan on top of the week that it cost you to, well, battle. So even this needs to be used in moderation and with caution. So if resting doesn't reduce stress enough to stop me from losing lifespan, and battling causes me to lose lifespan in order to reduce that stress, am I just screwed then? No, of course not. You're not in trouble. You're not screwed at all. It's just going to cost you money. Of course I'm talking about food. What food you choose to feed your monster will greatly impact its stress. I know a lot of you like to feed your monster potatoes, but let me tell you, you are literally killing your monster. Even in the best case scenario where your monster likes potatoes, it offers 0 stress reduction. If they are neutral to it, it'll actually increase your stress by 4. If they don't like potatoes and you feed them to them anyway, their stress will go up by 16. Stop feeding monsters potatoes, it's murder. Ideally, you should be feeding your monsters tablets every month whether they like them or not. If your monster likes tablets, it'll reduce their stress by 15. Even if they dislike it, it'll reduce their stress by 10, which is still better than any other food in the game, whether they like it or not. If you are on a budget, cup jelly and fish are both acceptable alternatives if your monsters like them, but they are nowhere as effective as tablets. Food isn't the only option though. The item shop actually has a couple of options right off the bat for helping you manage stress and fatigue. For stress, you have mint leaves. Giving a monster a mint leaf will reduce its current stress by 50%. It's usually worth taking the time to do a little bit of math before you start training in order to figure out where you need to use mint leaves to maximize the effect of that mint leaf, but before you start taking life index hits. For fatigue in the shop, you have nuts oil. Nuts oil will reduce your current fatigue by 28, and actually has a bonus effect if your monster either has a main or subbreed of Hanger, Arrowhead, or Durahan, where it'll reduce their current stress by 20% as well. After the year 1004, you will get access to the Magic Banana. Magic Bananas are really good at reducing stress as well, though they will probably require some save scumming as they can have one of 3 effects, the desired one typically being reducing stress by 10 while not touching fatigue. There are also 2 very special items in the game, the Gemini Pot and the Artemis Statue. You can get Gemini Pots on the 4th week of May in a D-ranked tournament called the Gemini Cup. Artemis statues can be found in the 2nd week of September from the Artemis Cup, which is an E-ranked tournament. What these items do is they grant a passive effect that will be applied at the beginning of any month. The Gemini Pot will reduce your stress by 1 for each pot you have in your inventory. The Artemis statue will do the same thing, but for fatigue. They also impact your fear and spoil, but that's a whole different video, so we won't be getting into that. I highly recommend getting multiple Gemini Pots as the effects do stack. I wouldn't really recommend stacking Artemis statues, as fatigue's much easier to manage to begin with compared to stress, so I'd probably just skip those. And now that you understand how Lifespan Index works, go forth, train some monsters, and have a beautiful day.